Yeah.
True environmentalist. He recycled everything.
Well, it's really good because you've got the 40s onward, and then you've got the...
Well, I got the 69s onward.
Yeah. So
I only know about the 40s from Lola, because Lola Skuse worked for me. Photographic member, Jerry's mother, and she had been here forever. And she was probably here about the same time you were. I think she came in 45.
I think she came in 45 or 46.
Yes.
They lived in a tent down there where the market is now.
That's right. And that was a brickyard. And they came here because Jerry Skuse had carried him on a pillow. He was so frail and tiny. You remember Jerry?
Well, I remember when he used to be at the swimming pool up there.
Yeah, and he was a child then.
He couldn't swim or anything. Swim along the water, but because one leg was still in a cast in his back at the time, and he'd just sit on the side of the pool and dangle one foot in the water. That's all he could do. So he couldn't get into
Look
the
how
pool.
big and strong he became.
right.
And they had some kidney disease in that family that was genetic.
Yeah, that's what got his sister and brother both.
And his father.
Yeah.
His father died of that, and his sister and his brother and Jerry, they all died of this kidney. I don't know what the name of it is.
I don't remember what
but it was an inherited kidney ailment. I think Charlie has it.
Could very well.
Is he still here?
Yeah, he was still working. He was working at Lowe's last time I talked to him.
Okay, why don't you pick up John and tell us your story, and then we'll see how they kind of fit together more.
Well, I came here in 1969, but I was in Palm Springs from 1959, so I knew a lot about Desert Hot Springs. And I remember when they incorporated in 1963. Well, they had, remember their first police, were you here then? They had their first police department?
I thought it was 73.
63.
Was it 63? Was it really? God.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I remember some.
Well, we had several trials with police departments,
Yeah,
and that one was very corrupt from what I understand. I had a girlfriend in Palm Springs that had her car confiscated. She always thought the police stole it. But anyway, I bought the drugstore in '69, and I had an awful time getting credit from Jim Haidet.
Probably did.
Because I had to do a lot of remodeling, and it was fun. I bought this store from John O'Connor.
But now, which store was it?
The drugstore, which they just tore down.
In the middle of the block.
In the middle of the block. And it had been a drugstore since 1946 or 7 or 8, one of those years.
And is that the one that had Dykard or something like that? Who was it who owned it before? The drugstore?
John O'Connor, didn't he?
John O'Connor had the pharmacy before me, but maybe several pharmacists. It was built by a pharmacist and his family. They might have contracted it out, but he had a lot of kids. You have to have to do something when you have that many kids. But anyway, that drugstore, I liked it very much. It was one little store, and business was pretty good. So the stationery store moved out in the adjacent building, so I rented that also, and I broke through the walls and made arches to connect the store, and that's when I saw the outside had the sign about the real estate people. I forget who it was and what his motto was.
Sam Douglas.
Yeah.
Sam says bye.
Sam says bye. Sam Douglas had that little tiny store that was very, very small, about a 60-foot frontage, because they took 10 foot of the next door to them. Yeah. And they had a soda fountain, a drugstore, and a real estate office in that little building. But anyway, I kind of outgrew that, and I went into the building next door, so then I had about 100-foot frontage, and it was a decent-sized store. And I had no soda fountain, and did business. In the process of running that store, I bought also a store in Coachella, which I think was crazy to do. I kept it only for about a year, and then I sold it. And with the proceeds, then I remodeled this property from that. Let's see, and I bought that building after a while, and I operated the hotel above it, a 6-unit, that the people came there and stayed, and they all went to coffees. Everybody in town went to coffees every day. And I had a lot of business selling like bathing caps and swimsuits and things for the pool, because tourists would come here without them. But everybody went to coffees. It's such a shame that we tore it down.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a real landmark.
Now, did you have
it was more of a landmark than Cabot, yeah.
Did you have a sign that said Furbee's Drugstore?
No, it never said Furbee's. It was Desert Hot Springs Drugs. And when I did the re-signing, I just put drugs. I was the only drugstore in town. And when I answered the phone, I'd say, drugstore. And if anybody wanted to know anything, I was like the Chamber of Commerce, but I had girls that really did know everything, mostly Lola, had a tremendous memory. And so anytime they wanted to know what time this was and what was going on here, they called the drugstore. It was fun.
And you had a phone booth outside?
We had a phone booth outside, and I don't remember his name, the guy that wrote Nature Boy, what was his name? He was here, he had a big
John.
Anyway, he was on the cover of Life one time, back in the 40s. But he used to come in every day and use the phone. Wait a minute, I had the phone inside the store, so he'd come inside every day and use the phone. And you know, that's how I got to know him. And when I wanted to remodel, I had to take that wall out. So I took the wall out and I asked the phone company to move the phone, which they were happy to do. And then I asked them to put it back outside, which they weren't happy to do. That phone booth outside is the phone company's. I got no take out of it. But when it was inside the store, I did get a commission. But at the drugstore, people would pay their phone bill, their electric bill, their water bill, whatever they wanted to pay, they could come to the drugstore and pay it. That was just one way of getting people to come and see us.
And what was the downtown area like then? What else
Lossie's was a variety store. In fact,
Okay.
it was called that.
Yeah.
You guys want any more coffee?
I'm fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
we're fine, Joe.
All right.
And of course, I was the drugstore. Next to me was a stationery store at that beginning, and of course the bar was always there.
Now the bar, that wasn't the Idle, was the Idle Hour still a bar
The
there?
Idle Hour is different. That was a different
Oh,
location.
right, yeah.
It was the one that's there now. Eric has it.
Oh, playoffs.
Yeah, it was called something different at the time.
Yeah.
It was the Oasis.
At the
The
Oasis.
Oasis bar at that time.
Anyway, that's always been there. I mean, this town's always had plenty of bars. Short on libraries, but plenty of bars.
And what kind of people do you remember in those days, in the 60s and 70s?
They were almost all old.
Mm-hmm.
They were always all sick, and they were all poor. John O'Connor didn't particularly like doing Medi-Cal prescriptions, which is for people that don't have money that are on it. And I loved it. I did that for Super X and Ramon in Palm Springs, so I had most of those customers. And I loved them. They paid me a fee that was, I think, adequate. I loved doing government work. I filled all the Medi-Cal prescriptions. They did a survey after I'd been here a few years to see, it was working on groceries and drugs. Everybody in town, almost all, bought their drugs here. And most people did not buy their groceries here. Al Horton was a little bit expensive. They'd go to Palm Springs and buy their groceries because they work there, have some other occasion to go there. But they did buy their prescriptions and drugs from me.
And the
let's see.
Santucci, he was
There were,
the Santucci family.
what's that?
Were they around, the Santucci family?
The Santucci
Yeah.
family preceded me.
54 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, they came right after the war. They came and said,
Well, it was later than that. Because
Okay.
they weren't here. When I left, they weren't here. They had a laundry to start with, down there on West and Pearson.
yes. And then they had a butcher shop right
Yeah.
next to the drugstore before I got there.
Right.
And they knew Cabot, but I did not know Cabot. Cabot had died before I came. But I knew Cole. I was on some commissions with Cole. But the other thing is the ethnic balance of the town was all Anglo. I don't think there was a single African-American family, and I think there were only one or two Hispanic families.
Probably, maybe, yeah, maybe. I'd see. Well, Corderos were here in the late 40s. They were the first Spanish.
Who?
Cordero.
Yeah, and then Mercado was here.
Yeah, then they came, and then of course Lopez, you know, he moved here.
Well, he didn't count.
Yeah, well,
He was such a loudmouth. I never thought of Lopez as Hispanic, but I guess he was.
yeah, he was.
But he sure had a big mouth.
Yeah,
I love Lopez.
in fact, he had a guy one time came in when he had the liquor store across the street from us.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
some guy came in and he was talking to him and he said, "I really like Desert Hot Springs." And Loeb said, well, great, I'm glad you do. He said, we enjoy it. It was a nice town. This was probably about 1955 or 56 or something like that. And the guy says, the best thing about this town is there's no Hispanic people in town. He says, is that right? He said, well, let me do you a favor. Let me have you meet the first Hispanic in Desert Hot Springs. And put out his hand to shake hands with the guy, and the guy about fell through the floor.
You know, that's true. Loeb was Hispanic, and I never even thought of it.
He never,
because he had no, and he was talking all the time. Something about Jim. Jim and Loeb were both on the Mission Springs board.
We went to high school together.
They went to high school together, and they were on the board together, and you know, we really had a good board. That's when the city could not get sewers in. They had tried several times and could not get it passed. So then the water district was trying to get it passed. And it was such a riot. They had it at Wardman Hall. There were so many people. It was a crowd. Remember that?
Quite a few people.
Jim was president of the water board and conducted the meeting. Alvin Todd said, he looked down at Jim and I, both a very big guy, tall and large. And it was a rambunctious meeting. Everybody was hollering. Everybody was upset, except Jim. You were perfect. I don't know. I think I did tell you, but you ran that meeting so perfect. You were not emotional, and you kept it calm, and nobody actually got killed.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't have any fights or anything. Well,
but they were verbal fights.
Oh yeah.
But nobody actually took a sledgehammer to anybody else.
A lot of opinions expressed in that meeting.
Oh yeah.
Which is what it was there for. That was the whole idea.
The whole idea. And the people were poor. This was a poor town. It's poor now, but it was poor then, and it was older. You know, young people have a chance of if they get hurt, they can work harder and make things up. But old people don't have that chance. They're on Social Security and whatever savings they have, they're not going to get anymore. So anyway, the town was hurting. And at that particular time, I think the sewer did not pass.
No, it did. In fact, the board. In fact, well.
After the meeting,
the manager definitely wanted to pass.
He wanted. Todd wanted.
Yeah, he wanted, and I said no. It's the people that want it. We're not going to do it.
Is Todd back in town?
Last time I heard he was in Mexico.
I heard that too, but I was talking to Jerry Lewis on one of those phone conversations, and Alvin Todd from Desert Hot Springs. I couldn't.
Oh yeah.
And telling you it's the same. Might have been his son or something.
I don't know. Well, I talked to Weeks about 2 years ago. He was at one of the potlucks we had at the park in Idlewild there, and I was talking to him, and he hadn't seen Elvin for years either.
Okay, this was maybe 2 months ago.
Well, that could very well be.
Maybe he's here. He was in Mexico.
Yeah.
He might have been in jail in Mexico.
Who knows? I don't know.
What
He should have been.